NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
Welcome to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show, where we talk about food, fashion, finance, and foundations of life. We are live on KCAA Radio Broadcasting Network, 1050 AM, 102.3 and 106.5 FM. KCAA is affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, and NBC Sports. We are sponsored by Sheltered Studios, Fire Up Connect, and Building Solid Foundation.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show. I am your host, Dylan Bruno. And, I'm going to be stepping in today. I was here last month, chiming in for the show. And I'm happy to be back. And we're going to talk about some interesting things concerning, what a fabulous lifestyle really is. What is a fabulous lifestyle? And I guess everybody can frame that for themselves, but most people think about a fabulous lifestyle as, jumping around the world or, driving a big fancy car or living in a big house. Maybe that's what you envision as a fabulous lifestyle, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. I'm going to reframe the meaning of fabulous lifestyle. I would say that it means living a life of empowerment, freedom, and service. Okay? Because you can have all those things, right? The big house, fancy car, on a plane every week, traveling to Switzerland, for instance, right? But you may not necessarily be empowered or feel free or actually serving someone, right? You can experience a fabulous lifestyle serving people without all the material trappings. But not to say that there's anything wrong with that, having those things. But it's just a deeper meaning to it. So how you frame that for yourself, well, that depends on you. Whatever your passions are, whatever makes you get up in the morning, and whatever gives meaning to your life. Everybody has that for themselves, right? It's like a fingerprint. It's not the same for everybody. For me, I tend to see my lifestyle, at least at this stage of my life, as a lifestyle of service. And what channels? How do I channel my service to the masses, I should say? Well, one of the ways I do it is by, number one, being on this radio show. Number two, I have various platforms in which I educate people on home improvement and DIY, because I feel empowerment is one of the greatest gifts you can give anybody out there, man, woman, child. And I tend to do it through home improvement and tools, right? I like to teach people how to use tools, because with tools you can change your environment. You can be creative, and that's one of the biggest instruments of, I guess, freedom you can give anybody. At least I knew it is for me. But you'll be surprised, right, about how many. You'll be surprised how many of us, right, especially men, right, who are known to be drawn to home improvement and stuff like that. It's not just men, but I'm gonna harp on the men for a minute. A lot of men don't even have the skills. They don't even have the skills to do simple things around the house. And that's what kind of got me into what I'm doing today as far as the educational portion of it, to show people, hey, listen, you don't necessarily have to be handicapped, right? There's simple things you can do. A lot of times, we don't do things because of fear, right? Because of fear, we were never taught certain things. We don't want to embarrass ourselves in front of our spouses or just our friends or whatever. So we just kind of, we call the pros, but you don't necessarily have to do that. A lot of DIY tasks are simple to do. And believe it or not, once you get into it, you'll find that you may have a knack for it, and you may even find yourself taking up a class or something like that and becoming even more skilled at it. Right? That's one of the the things that I love the most about DIY home improvement and tools is because it opens up the door for the average person who doesn't necessarily have the confidence to do these things. It opens up a door in them, right? I was an instructor, a welding instructor for a while, and I've, taught people how to weld and all that good stuff. And, I saw a person that had no experience with any kind of tools pick up a welder, learn the basics of it, and next thing you know, they're off to the races, right? Whole new person right after that. They get certified and they're going out there in the job world, and they find themselves a job, a welding job, and they come back later to the school to visit, and next thing you know, they're just a whole new person. So I see the power. I see the power of picking up a tool and doing something with, creating something, building something, repairing something, and it's not just about that thing they're repairing. It's about themselves. They're actually building themselves, and it's a beautiful sight to see, guys. It's a beautiful sight to see. So you don't have to be afraid of tools. You don't have to be afraid of them at all. Okay, they could. I mean, if you say to yourself, "Well, I'm not a handy person. I don't care about that. I'll get my." Well, it's nothing wrong with trying something. It's nothing wrong with trying, and if you don't like it, that's fine. I'm not. Nobody's forcing anything down your throat. Just showing you that there are other avenues other than just reading books or stuff like that. You may find that you're really good with your hands, right? You may find that, and that you want to explore more, into the world of the skilled trades, or at least just being able to fix stuff around the house yourself. Imagine imagine the confidence that you will gain just from doing that. Okay, and that goes for men, women, men and women. I'm not just talking to the men here. I'm talking to everybody right now. Okay, guys, if you want to call in and chime in on this subject, you can call 909-792-KCAA. That's 909-792-5222, or toll free 888-909-1050. If you want to call in and chime in on how home improvement, or even if you have a green thumb or something, how that changed your life. Some people, they took their newfound skills and they actually created businesses out of them. They created whole social media platforms out of it. I'm myself one of those people, right? I created a YouTube channel solely for the purpose of education. And on the back end of that, I promote products that I put together for the audience, for my audience as well, right? Because I feel it's an obligation. I feel it's an obligation to offer the audience something that you've built. Why not offer them something other than just an education, right? And it's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong creating a business out of something that you feel very strongly about, that you feel it's very purposeful and empowering to others, right? There's nothing wrong with that, guys. There's no scams going on here, okay? So yeah, guys, feel free to call in and let's talk about this subject some more. And let me know how you feel about it, okay? Let me know how home improvement DIY, even if you're a novice, has affected your life, has affected your confidence, and where it has brought you in your stage of development right now, in terms of creativity and all that good stuff, empowerment. Okay, so guys, if you have a home, let's face it, you are going to have to fix things. Okay, and you're either going to call the pros or you're going to do it yourself. If you're fearful, you're probably going to end up calling the pros, but guess what? That's going to cost you some money. Okay, you're going to have to come out of pocket to do some of the things that you probably can do yourself, but what's stopping you from doing it is your apprehension, because you've never done it before. And just like anything else in life, if you're too scared, you're not going to do it, and you're going to pay somebody else to do it, because you haven't tapped into that part of yourself that probably can do it, right? And not to say that you won't make mistakes, and there's certain things that you should not approach as a DIYer, but there's certain things that you can, right? That's pretty simple, that you don't have to freak out about, okay? No, like leaky faucets, you can do that. Unclogging a drain or something like that, right? All that takes sometimes is a drain snake, or sometimes even less than that. And somebody may say, oh yeah, I'll just go use Drano. Well, yeah, you can use Drano, but Drano doesn't always solve the problem. You may get a hole in your wall, right? Do you know how to patch drywall? It's not that hard at all, fellas. It's really not, okay? You may have to repair or fix a running toilet or something like that. Sometimes all that is the chain on the flapper gets caught up under the flapper, and the flapper's not totally closed. That's one thing. When it comes to bathroom repairs, that's pretty simple. Okay, it doesn't require any tools at all. You just got to take the lid off the back of the toilet and just pull that chain, and voila, that problem solved. Simple things like that. You don't have to be fearful, right? Now, when it comes to more advanced things, of course, it may take a little bit more study, a little bit more thought about how to approach those things, but they can be done. And I guarantee you guys, once you do something like, say, lay tile or something like that, or put up a cabinet, or even strip carpet, lay down whatever tasks that need to be done around the house that you were afraid to approach before. Once you do it, you'll feel like a whole new person. Now you're going to want to do everything, right? I mean, painting walls and stuff like that's very common. Very common. A lot of people don't even want to approach that, because there's an order to actually painting as well, painting a room, especially if you use something like a paint sprayer or something like that. But guys, in today's age, with the internet, with guys like me out there that have channels teaching you how to do these things, it's really no excuse. You really shouldn't use fear as an excuse. The only other reason I would say besides fear is just the fact that you just don't want to do it. Okay, usually behind that is fear, and I don't want to say laziness because I don't want to call anybody that. But even behind laziness and procrastination is that underlying fear that, hey, can I really do this? But you can do it. Okay, you can fix a squeaky door hinge. You can replace, you can tighten up loose screws on your cabinets. You can do all those things. You can, like I said, you can fix running toilets. You can replace a shower head or something like that. It's not that hard. It's not that hard at all. You can save yourself a bunch of money in the process. Okay, and some of these things don't require heavy duty tools at all. You just need a basic toolkit to do some of these things. Okay. So what are some of the basic tools that you may need? Well, what's some of the most common tools? That drill, hammer, screwdriver. Okay, I was doing before I came on today. I was doing a little bit of research there, and let me see if I can find something here. Some of the stats I came across, and these are some old stats, but nevertheless they still apply today. About 72% of men said they could handle very basic home repair or improvement tasks. 40% of men say they either can't do anything around the house, or they probably could, but they'd rather call a handyman anyway. And only 51% said they knew how to unclog a toilet. Now, okay, if that didn't make you crack a smile, I don't know what to say. Okay, but it's a reality. And I'm not going to say that I know how to do everything either, right? But one of the great things about home improvement DIY is that you're constantly learning. You never know. I mean, it's like even a professional tradesman, okay, who's been in their trade for 30 years, they don't know everything. They may know a whole lot about what they do in their particular trade. An electrician may know way more than I do, you or I may know. But that electrician may not be a carpenter. They may not be a plumber. They may not know how to lay shingles. So don't look at someone as the do-it-all. Yeah, they do have jacks of all trades and stuff like that, but nobody knows everything. So if you can just have that mentality about, okay, he or she may know more than me, but they don't know everything. All right, I may learn something that they don't know. For example, on my channel. It's called Calibrate Tools and DIY, where I put out the video every week on a specific task and so forth, on a tool, how to use it and stuff like that. I get comments from journeymen, people that have been in the trades for years and years, saying, "Hey, I didn't know that. I didn't know that." So that told me right there, hey, even a guy like that, a girl, a lady like that who's been in the trades for forever, you know, longer than I've ever been in a particular trade. Well, I've been in the trucking industry for many years, and I've been in the welding world for a few years as well. But even people that have been like I said in their trade for such a long time, they don't know everything, and to me that's a wonderful thing, because it keeps you open to learning new things. Anytime you say to yourself, "Hey, I know everything. Nobody can tell me anything," that's when you lose the game. You should always have an attitude of a child, even if you know more than the next person, right? Because you don't know what that other person knows, right? And have an attitude of a child, but also have an attitude of a teacher, right? If you can kind of understand what I'm saying there, it's just, always be humble, even though you may be far ahead of everyone else. Always be humble and always be willing to learn. And that's what I want you guys to take away from today, is to always be humble. Guys, catch you on the next segment, and I'll be right back. The worst thing a homeowner can do is be without a good set of tools. Don't find yourself caught without the right tools. The Real Men of Real Estate's Ultimate Utility Bag ensures you're equipped for any DIY task. With high-quality essentials like a hammer, measuring tape, multi-tool, and Exactac picture hanging tool housed in a sturdy bag, you'll be ready for anything. It's not a good feeling when you have to stop right in the middle of a project because you didn't have that tool that you should have had in the first place. Introducing the Real Men of Real Estate's Ultimate Utility Bag from Caliber 8. This ultimate all-around-the-house tool bag includes essentials like a non-slip grip 16-ounce claw hammer with a nail starter, which is perfect for keeping your fingers safe from getting smashed, a durable 16-foot measuring tape, which is a must in any toolkit, the Caliber 8 Multi-Max Pocket Tool, which features a 6-inch locking-style adjustable pocket wrench, 5-position wrench, 2 Phillips, and 1 flathead screwdriver, a durable stainless steel pocket knife, can and bottle opener, saw blade, and LED flashlight so you don't have to get caught in the dark. A compact toolkit small enough to fit in your glove compartment or your kitchen drawer, with a utility knife, 2 Phillips and flathead precision screwdrivers, a mini socket set, a box of wood and machine screws, needle nose pliers, wire cutters, and a driver set with flathead Phillips and Torx style bits, and the Exactac picture hanging tool, which makes picture hanging easy with no measuring required or stray holes to deal with. With everything you need conveniently packed in one sturdy bag, you'll be ready for any DIY task. Call area code 619-453-4664 or visit realmenofrealestate.com. The first 10 shoppers get a 10% discount with promo code TOOLS. That's TOOLS.
This is Steve Matley. Join me every Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations radio talk show. I spent decades as a professional construction manager, business owner, real estate developer, and a college educator, and I enjoy learning new things from other people. We talk a lot about real estate, business, and finance, but we cover a diverse range of other topics as well. Some of the topics we've discussed in the past few months include real estate investing, leadership, higher education, ADUs, marketing using technology, multifamily rental properties, business strategy, entrepreneurship. You never know who may show up or what they may talk about, so join us right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio.
Do you remember the power of dreaming? M. Teresa Lawrence helps us all reconnect with imagination through her renowned Leadership of Play coaching program. Schedule a session with Teresa on Instagram at Your Trueness to ignite creativity and pursue huge dreams once more. Don't let your spark fade. DM Teresa at Your Trueness today and reclaim the magic of dreaming.
Tired of qualifying your leads and not getting the right clients for you? Join the finest women in real estate and learn how to attract the best clients and increase your referral network. Call now at 951-378-5316. 951-378-5316 and become one of the finest women in real estate.
Hey guys, welcome back to Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show. I am Dylan Bruno, the Tool Tutor, and I'm glad to have you guys with me today. Okay, we're talking about empowerment, okay, through the lens of home improvement, DIY, and all that great stuff. Why? Because at the end of the day, guys, I'm a tool guy, and I see tools as an extension of the mind. With tools, not only do they represent some of the pinnacles of human innovation, but they also represent extensions of the human body, if you really want to get down to it, to be able to do things, leverage the physical universe in ways that you couldn't without them. And that's the great thing about it. So, a lot of life is just perspective, right? Someone may look at a hammer and say, "Oh, that's just a hammer. Who cares?" Me, I'll look at a hammer and say, "Wow, look at that, that piece of innovation that's taken for granted, but has built civilizations and stuff like that, right?" And even itself has evolved today. Like now, they have hammers that hold nails on them. They have nail starters on them, things like that, right? You see in the tool world, in the tool industry, all kinds of innovation happening. And a lot of that has to do with competition. A lot of it has to do with capitalism. The businesses have to, the next guy has to, create something that's going to stand out. And that's the thing about capitalism. It forces in the spirit of competition, innovation to happen. Okay, and of course, we can dive into that on another show. The good and the bad side of capitalism, but that's not necessarily what I want to focus on today. But yeah, innovation. It's all about innovation, guys. Innovation, empowerment, and that opens the doors to higher levels of, innovation as well. And you want to talk about innovation? I created a tool. You guys may have seen it in the last in the commercials just passed. It's called a picture hanging tool, the Exactech picture hanging tool. And that took a while. It took a while just to get that to market, and it did not start out as that. It actually started out as a nail holder, right? And then over time, as new iterations began to appear in the mind's eye, I decided to turn it into something, or it evolved into what it is known now as a picture hanging device. Because people need that, right? Most people need picture hanging device more than they need a nail holder, right? So the story behind that is pretty long, and but eventually it got to market, and when something's good, other people want to, they want to take it away from you. To be honest, and that's what I kind of experienced with that project, with that invention, and very, very, very humbling experience, learning experience as well. But one thing I've learned is that in life, you're gonna have to go through some humbling experiences in order to grow. That's the reason we're here. If you think you're just gonna prance through life without things happening to you, it's gonna be a rude awakening. But nonetheless, it's gonna test your resolve. It's gonna test your resiliency. And I stuck with it, stayed the course, put it out, and I'm offering it to you guys now in what you guys saw in the toolkit, the Calibre Ultimate Toolkit, Real Men of Real Estate Toolkit, which you guys can go grab, get a discount on it right now. It'll be a great Father's Day gift, even though today is Father's Day, by the way. I think I mentioned that in the intro, but I'll say it again. Happy Father's Day to you guys. So yeah, my interest in not just innovating a physical product, but also innovating how I would bring that to the people that I wanted to serve, which is you guys, the public, the mass public. That's another form of innovation as well, whether it's through marketing, whether it's through whatever type of promotion that you're gonna implement, all that good stuff. It's all about innovation, and I tell you, I couldn't do that if I was scared. I couldn't approach that if I was scared, right? I had to take a risk, and everything's a risk. right? Everything's a risk, but on the other end of that risk, the reward is usually greater. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. Okay, so once you understand that principle, then you won't be afraid. You won't be afraid of unclogging that toilet or fixing that leaky faucet, or tightening those cabinet hinges, or anything like that, or fixing that hole in the drywall. You guys can do it. I'm your biggest cheerleader right here, because I didn't necessarily know how to do all those things either way back in the days, but I was a student. I had a parent that was not only a cerebral type of person, because they were an accountant. But they also built things. They also built things, right? And I was right there watching, learning, and sometimes I try to connect the dots as to why I'm doing what I'm doing today. And I say, well, maybe that's why, because I was kind of exposed to that. And, from a family of 4 boys, 3 girls, and I'm the only boy that actually was up under that parent, and, watching them do things. Maybe in a sense, this was what was one of the purposes that was planned out for me in life, right? So, it's funny when you connect the dots and everything, but it all comes down to, how could I serve others, right? And guys, let's be real here. Owning a business, selling products to others, in a sense, to me, it's an obligation, right? I feel obligated to offer my products and services to you guys because that's the right thing to do. That's the right thing to do, right? And it's nothing wrong with creating something for the world and getting paid for it, getting compensated for it. And so, yeah, that's why I put together what I put together for you guys, okay? Because I want you guys to be handy. I want you guys to save money, okay? I want you guys to get that confidence that you can do it yourself, and especially in today's market where, things are tight, and believe it or not, you're not going to have a choice at some point to save that extra dollar. And, when it comes to doing things around the house, fixing things, repairing things, that adds up, okay? Especially in the times that we're living in right now where, everything's not as, it's not as easy to spend that extra dollar. That that income, discretionary income, is not necessarily as available as it was, right? So that's another reason why you should learn how to be handy and learn how to fix things around the house, or even do minor repairs on the car, replace the battery, things like that. Maybe even learn how to take out your alternator, change the belts, things like that, right? These are things that you may not have thought about before, but learning the skills how to do these things can actually save you in a pinch. It can definitely save you in a pinch, guys, okay? So yeah, what other things, guys? Don't forget, if you want to call in and chime in on this and how learning a skill, learn how to work with your hands has changed your life, and it could have changed your life in a big way, small way. I would love to hear about it. Okay, so you can call in 909-792-KCAA, or toll free at 888-909-1050. Okay, guys. Yeah. So, any of you guys ever got up on the roof and cleaned your gutters? That's it's a simple task, and some of you people probably call someone to do it, but it's a simple but necessary task, right? Something is cleaning your gutters, right? Especially if you live in a rainy area, right? A very wet area, or you live, a windy area, and you got trees around the house. Not cleaning your gutters, for example, can cause a lot of problems. Can cause water to build up, can cause leaks to happen on your roof. And we all know that a leak, right? A leaky roof is one of the worst things that can happen. Having to replace and repair that. And all it took is for you to get up on a ladder, right? And get up there and sweep out those gutters, right? But did you guys know that many households in America don't even own a ladder? They don't even own a ladder, which is crazy. Okay, but yeah, these are some of the hard facts that I've discovered in doing the research on this. Is how how much we're lacking, right? How much we're lacking in some of the basic tools and skills that are necessary to maintain a home. That can end up costing you more than it needed to, right? Cleaning your gutters, things like that. Okay. What else, guys? Plumbing repairs. I just mentioned. You may have to replace toilet components, things like that, right? You may, if when it comes to drywall repairs, fixing cracks, and pretty simple things that you can do. Your weather stripping around your windows may have rotted out, and you may need to replace those because air is escaping, right? And that's costing you money in your heating bills. Lubricating the hinges and cracks, adjusting, a door that may be off kilter. Things like that you can do. Basic things. Tiling, regrouting tile. Tile after a while, the grout kind of gets dried up and you may have to redo it or fix that. You may have to regrout it. Things like that you can do. Think about that, guys, and we'll be back right after this.
The worst thing a homeowner can do is be without a good set of tools. Don't find yourself caught without the right tools. The Real Men of Real Estate's Ultimate Utility Bag ensures you're equipped for any DIY task. With high-quality essentials like a hammer, measuring tape, multi-tool, and Exactac picture hanging tool housed in a sturdy bag, you'll be ready for anything. It's not a good feeling when you have to stop right in the middle of a project because you didn't have that tool that you should have had in the first place. Introducing the Real Men of Real Estate's Ultimate Utility Bag from Caliber 8. This ultimate all-around-the-house tool bag includes essentials like a non-slip grip 16-ounce claw hammer with a nail starter, which is perfect for keeping your fingers safe from getting smashed. A durable 16-foot measuring tape, which is a must in any toolkit. The Caliber 8 Multimax Pocket Tool, which features a 6-inch locking style adjustable pocket wrench, 5-position wrench, 2 Phillips, and 1 flathead screwdriver, a durable stainless steel pocket knife, can and bottle opener, saw blade, and LED flashlight so you don't have to get caught in the dark. A compact toolkit small enough to fit in your glove compartment or your kitchen drawer, with a utility knife, 2 Phillips and flathead precision screwdrivers, a mini socket set, a box of wood and machine screws, needle nose pliers, wire cutters, and a driver set with flathead Phillips and Torx style bits, and the Exactac picture hanging tool, which makes picture hanging easy with no measuring required or stray holes to deal with. With everything you need conveniently packed in one sturdy bag, you'll be ready for any DIY task. Call area code 619-453-4664 or visit realmenofrealestate.com. The first 10 shoppers get a 10% discount with promo code TOOLS. That's TOOLS.
This is Steve Matley. Join me every Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations radio talk show. I spent decades as a professional construction manager, business owner, real estate developer, and a college educator, and I enjoy learning new things from other people. We talk a lot about real estate, business, and finance, but we cover a diverse range of other topics as well. Some of the topics we've discussed in the past few months include real estate investing, leadership, higher education, ADUs, marketing using technology, multifamily rental properties, business strategy, entrepreneurship. You never know who may show up or what they may talk about, so join us right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio.
Do you remember the power of dreaming? M. Teresa Lawrence helps us all reconnect with imagination through her renowned Leadership of Play coaching program. Schedule a session with Teresa on Instagram at Your Trueness to ignite creativity and pursue huge dreams once more. Don't let your spark fade. DM Teresa at Your Trueness today and reclaim the magic of dreaming.
Tired of qualifying your leads and not getting the right clients for you? Join the finest women in real estate and learn how to attract the best clients and increase your referral network. Call now at 951-378-5316. 951-378-5316 and become one of the finest women in real estate.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show. Glad you guys can make it today. I'm Dylan Bruno, your friendly neighborhood tool tutor, and today we're touching on how DIY home improvement and tools can change your life. Okay? Yeah, literally change your life, guys. You know, I've come across so many people in my journey thus far into the DIY world, the tool world, the educational world, who've told me how DIY has changed their life drastically, right? I mean, it even caused some people to change careers. Some people have become, interior designers just because they decided to take up DIY, and they found a whole new career path for themselves, right? That they thoroughly enjoy. Some people got into, being contractors, and whether it's welding, whether it's, even truckers. I've heard of doctors and people that you may think may have it made, right, as a doctor or lawyer, but they were actually miserable in their careers, and they said, "Oh man, I want to travel the country. I'm going to be a trucker," and they took it up, and that's what they do. It's so unpredictable how life can go when you try something new, or you eventually act on that thing that's been bugging you for years, right? That desire that you never really acted on, or that curiosity that you never acted on, and you said, "Hey, I'm gonna try this out," and next thing you know, your life is going a whole nother path, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to stick with that path, but at least you tried it out. And that's one thing I've learned, is that sometimes it's better just to try something, even though you may find out that you didn't like it or whatever, but at least you tried, versus living a life saying to yourself, "Man, I never did that." You ever heard of people saying, an older person on their deathbed saying, "Okay, what's my biggest regret?" And a lot of them say, "Well, the fact that I didn't try it." Not that they regretted what they did, it's the fact that they regretted what they did not do, right? And you got to ask yourself, is that going to be me, right? Is that going to be me? Am I going to be one of those people that regretted what I did not do? So, I think the less riskier things to do is to actually work on a home, right? Or repair something or fix something. It's not like you got to jump out of a plane like I used to do in the military, but that's a whole nother story. I've always been the daredevil type anyway, but we'll talk about that on another show. But yeah, it's about exploring your potential, right? Exploring your potential. And one of the safest environments to do that is getting, starting a DIY project, right? It doesn't mean that you got to build a big, a big house or something, like extra house or something, but, try something new, fix something around the house, right? Lay some new flooring. Maybe you never tried how to lay wooden flooring or something like that. Maybe you never really learned how to use a drill properly. You never used a wood router properly or something like that, right? Maybe those pictures that you always wanted to hang, but they're still sitting in the basement or sitting on the floor because you're so apprehensive about hanging them right. Maybe it's just time to see if you can, just get it done. Get it done. And it's better to make mistakes, right? It's better to make mistakes than just to not act, right? To not act at all. The last time I was here, I mentioned what the meaning of entrepreneur really means, right? And I said it was a French word. Looked it up, and all it really means is, I think I said it meant to act, right? That's all it meant. It had nothing to do with like business or anything like that. Just the meaning of that word just meant to act, right? And that's pretty much what you have to do, right? You can't be in your head all the time. You have to actually act things out, experience the possibilities, experience the good, bad, and the uglies of your actions. And you can't learn. You can't move forward unless you experience the good, bad, and the ugly of anything, right? So yeah, you will make mistakes, you will mess up, but that's all part of it. That's all part of the tapestry of life, right? If you look at I like to give metaphors and analogies to kind of motivate people, inspire people, right? If you look at a landscape, if you look at a portrait or a picture or artwork of any kind, you will see various colors. You will see dark and you will see light. You will see contrast. You will see, all those things, right? You'll see irregular lines. You'll see asymmetrical configurations and stuff like that. But that's nature, right? If you look at nature, it's the same thing. Nothing's what you may call perfect, right? In terms of symmetry and geometry, right? If you look at life like that, you do need the contrast. You do need the dark. You do need the light, and it all creates the what you call beauty, right? And you can't experience that if you live in fear, right? So one of the ways to conquer fear is to pick up that tool, right? Pick up that hammer, pick up that drill. Learn all the parts of the drill. Learn how you loosen the chuck. Okay, learn how you tighten it. Learn the different speeds. Once you learn all those things, you start to get even more curious as to what this tool can do. Because most people don't even use tools, myself included, to their fullest potential. You'll read the instructions in them, and it has so many things in there that so many features that you're not even using, right? But the more you get into it, you see, hey, listen, this thing can do this thing can do that. I can build this with this. If I put it on this setting, I can drive a screw in quicker if I put it on this setting, or maybe I need to take it off of that setting because it's too much torque and force. Little things like that you learn, and the more you learn, the more confident you become, right? And that's pretty much what I dedicated the last 3.5 years to, is teaching you guys on the various platforms how to do these things, right? And to be fully transparent, I'm learning myself as well, because I don't know everything. But what I do know is I present it to you in a way that's digestible, and I wouldn't say it's the most entertaining, because some people may not find it entertaining. But if you do that, that's even better, right? The ultimate goal, though, is to actually teach you, because communities are built by people that use their hands, right? I mean, you have all these, like I said, you have doctors, lawyers, but guess what? They got to walk into a building. They got to serve their clients, customers, in a building that was built by somebody who, a so-called blue-collar worker, right? Communities have to be built. You have to have both, right? And I've dedicated the last 3.5 years to promoting, right, and lifting up the people that use their hands to build our communities, to build the homes you live in, to build the roads that you drive on, and all that stuff, right? Because they don't get a lot of credit. And I feel, it's my duty to do that. But at the same time, also to teach you, right, the person that never picked up a tool in their life, to show them, hey, listen, you can do this. You don't have to feel insecure about it. Okay, because I'm here to support you, and I'm here to make sure that you get all the knowledge you need to do that. Okay? So guys, like I said, if you want, I'll see you in right after the break, guys.
The worst thing a homeowner can do is be without a good set of tools. Don't find yourself caught without the right tools. The Real Men of Real Estate's Ultimate Utility Bag ensures you're equipped for any DIY task. With high-quality essentials like a hammer, measuring tape, multi-tool, and Exactac picture hanging tool housed in a sturdy bag, you'll be ready for anything. It's not a good feeling when you have to stop right in the middle of a project because you didn't have that tool that you should have had in the first place. Introducing the Real Men of Real Estate's Ultimate Utility Bag from Caliber 8. This ultimate all-around-the-house tool bag includes essentials like a non-slip grip 16-ounce claw hammer with a nail starter, which is perfect for keeping your fingers safe from getting smashed, a durable 16-foot measuring tape, which is a must in any toolkit, the Caliber 8 Multimax Pocket Tool, which features a 6-inch locking style adjustable pocket wrench, 5-position wrench, 2 Phillips, and 1 flathead screwdriver, a durable stainless steel pocket knife, can and bottle opener, saw blade, and LED flashlight so you don't have to get caught in the dark. A compact toolkit small enough to fit in your glove compartment or your kitchen drawer, with a utility knife, 2 Phillips and flathead precision screwdrivers, a mini socket set, a box of wood and machine screws, needle nose pliers, wire cutters, and a driver set with flathead Phillips and Torx style bits, and the Exactac picture hanging tool, which makes picture hanging easy with no measuring required or stray holes to deal with. With everything you need conveniently packed in one sturdy bag, you'll be ready for any DIY task. Call area code 619-453-4664 or visit realmenofrealestate.com. The first 10 shoppers get a 10% discount with promo code TOOLS. That's TOOLS.
This is Steve Matley. Join me every Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio Talk Show. I spent decades as a professional construction manager, business owner, real estate developer, and a college educator, and I enjoy learning new things from other people. We talk a lot about real estate, business, and finance, but we cover a diverse range of other topics as well. Some of the topics we've discussed in the past few months include real estate investing, leadership, higher education, ADUs, marketing using technology, multifamily rental properties, business strategy, entrepreneurship. You never know who may show up or what they may talk about, so join us right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio.
Do you remember the power of dreaming? M. Teresa Lawrence helps us all reconnect with imagination through her renowned Leadership of Play coaching program. Schedule a session with Teresa on Instagram at Your Trueness to ignite creativity and pursue huge dreams once more. Don't let your spark fade. DM Teresa at Your Trueness today and reclaim the magic of dreaming.
Tired of qualifying your leads and not getting the right clients for you? Join the finest women in real estate and learn how to attract the best clients and increase your referral network. Call now at 951-378-5316. 951-378-5316 and become one of the finest women in real estate.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show. Glad to have you guys back in this last segment. I'd like to touch on something that's, I think, very important. Okay, in this topic about learning how to, use tools and all that good stuff. But behind all of that, is the opportunity, to really form relationships with the ones that you're close to. I mentioned earlier that I used to, as a kid, I was under my father watching him build things and stuff like that. And I'll tell you, if you're a father and you're looking to connect with the kids, if you're a parent, not just a father, mother, it doesn't matter. If you're a kid looking to connect with your parent, one of the best ways to do that is to, if you know that they're into DIY and things like that, that's one of the most, one of the biggest opportunities to bond with them that you can ever find. The other day, I asked a couple of young ladies what they're going to get their fathers for Father's Day, and they, unfortunately, the answer wasn't what I expected. But when I thought about their answers, I was, I wasn't too surprised either, because both of those young ladies had nothing to say, and that's because they probably didn't have a good relationship with their father, and that's a common, unfortunately, that's a common reality that we face in the world, right? Broken relationships, strained relationships, and stuff like that. And I tend to look at what I do. It's not just to educate people on how to use tools, but it's also a way to keep families together, keep relationships intact. the relationships that matter at least, right? You know, I mean, if you can, you know, if you can give your father a Father's Day gift like the Calibrate Ultimate Utility Bag, and see the smile on his face, at least appreciate that, to show that he appreciates that from you. That's a great way to break the ice. You know, that's a great way to, or at least solidify that an already strong relationship is through, you know, is through doing things together, right? Doing things together, not just taking a drive, but actually building things together, creating things, right? Him showing you, especially if he's skilled himself, showing you what to do, you learning, or willing to learn, right? And even if you're not into that, I mean, it's still an opportunity, because a lot of times people are looking for opportunities to bond with their loved ones who they may have a strained relationship with. And one of the ways to do that is through doing things together, right? Because I mean, in the age of cell phones and things like that, I think the American family is lost touch. We all know this, right? Everybody's sitting at the dinner table. If you're even sitting at a dinner table, everybody's looking at their phones. You know, nobody's talking, and it's sad. It's a sad thing to see, but it's a reality, right? And you know, and think about what they have now as far as tech. I mean, they got VR sets, right? You put the goggles on, and you can't even see who's at the table now. You know, it's everybody's kind of caught up in their own world, right? And so the erosion of the family structure has, you know, because of technology, and that's the dark side to it, right? Has already been underway, right? And I tend to look at, based on what I do and how, you know, is I tend to look at home improvement as one of the main ways for families to bond together and do something, you know, that'll, you know, keep the lines of communication open. Because then now, you know, you're asking, hey, how you're asking your daughter, hey, how was school today? You're asking your dad, hey, how was your day? Or dad, how do I do this? You know, do I screw it in like that? Do I hit it like that? You know, it just opens up the lines of communication, which is very important, right? Because, you know, I run across a lot of adults who have kids that, you know, they say, well, man, I can't even talk to them anymore. They're in that phone, you know, their head's in that phone. And, you know, the whole goal for me to, you know, to do what I do is to, at least one of the goals is to build that structure back, heal those lines of communication again in the family and stuff. So that's always a great thing. And home improvement and learn how to use tools is one of the best ways to do that. Okay. So if you know, go grab one of the tool sets, and you know, it'll be a great gift. It's Father's Day. You know, take advantage of the discount, and you know, it'll you won't regret that, right? Because it's come from the heart. Then it's come from the heart. Okay. So, guys, appreciate you. Thanks for having me on today, and I hope you learned something, and I hope I inspired you to pick those tools up. Take care.
Broadcasting more local radio programs than any other station in California. We are KCAA.
Our food supply is facing total destruction. Big Ag and Big Farm are using new CRISPR technology to genetically modify every fruit, vegetable, and grain. It's so bad that the FDA just approved the first GMO cow for human consumption. At Joseph's Organic Bakery, we never use GMO hybridized flour. We bake like 1,000 years ago. We only use non-GMO ancient grains that we grind ourselves, never commercial flour. Proper bread is medicine. To learn how our bread can transform your health, give us a call at 954-541-4062 or visit our website at veganbakerymiami.com. That's 954-541-4062.
What would you do if you had a broken bone? You'd go to the doctor and use your insurance, right? Well, what would you do if you have a serious problem with drugs and alcohol? Most people do nothing until it's way too late. Your insurance can help you get clean and sober with the assistance of a place like the Detox and Treatment Helpline. Many times, addiction treatment is fully covered. So why not use your insurance to treat your addiction problem just like you would if you had a broken bone? And with the Family Medical Leave Act, you're allowed to take time off by law, and your employer doesn't need to know the reason. So there are two good reasons. You've got insurance you can use for your addiction problem, and with the Family Medical Leave Act, it's completely confidential. Call now, 800-398-7414. That's 800-398-7414.
Frank's Towing and Auto Repair reminds all drivers that every 6 days a tow truck driver is killed. So if you see a vehicle with emergency flashing lights on, know that you're required by law to move over a lane and slow down. Let's help all tow truck drivers make it home safely to their families. Slow down and move over. You just may save a life. That's from Frank's Towing, family owned and operated for over 30 years. For all your towing needs, call 951-360-1334. That's 951-360-1334. For Frank's Towing, on the air because they care.
Was your car involved in an accident or just need help with dents? All Magic Paint and Body Collision Centers. In business for over 30 years. Their highly trained staff and certified technicians and friendly staff are the best in the business and treat each car as if it was their own. All Magic Paint and Body Collision Centers are family owned and offer state-of-the-art equipment and tools to ensure optimum results. They use the latest technology in computerized color matching and specialize in frame repairs. With their modern laser measuring systems, they're OEM certified, and they have 4 locations to serve you. All Magic Paint and Body Collision Centers offer rental car assistance with free drop-off and pickup services too, and their work has a lifetime guarantee. All Magic Paint and Body Collision Centers are in Norco, Eastvale, Moreno Valley, and in Fontana. Call them at 1-800-61-MAGIC. That's 1-800-61-MAGIC. All Magic Paint and Body Collision Centers. 1-800-61-MAGIC. All Magic Paint and Auto Body says, drive carefully.
Hey y'all, Merle here. Good news. For once my neighbors is jealous of me. You want to know why? Because my grass is growing and looking green, and I can sit on my sofa out in the front yard, and I don't even have to overwater it anymore. You know how I did it? I listened to Damn Water Boys on the Water Zone every Thursday night on KCAA. Well, I got me a smart controller, and now it waters at night, and my yard looks darn tootin'. No more sneaking around and hooking up my hose to my neighbor's spigot in the middle of the night, and his dog won't bite me anymore. And you can do it too. Listening is easier than ever. KCAA is now streaming online.
It's streaming.
What?
It's streaming, you dummy.
Well, I don't know much about streaming, but they doing it apparently at KCAAradio.com. So anywho, listen to the Water Zone and fix your yacht up right here at KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
NBC News Radio, I'm Lisa Carton. Israeli forces are observing a daytime pause in fighting to allow humanitarian aid to enter southern Gaza. The IDF says a limited tactical pause in military operations took effect Saturday on a main road near Rafah so more aid trucks can get through. IDF said the pause was coordinated with the UN and other international agencies, but added that it doesn't mean it's ceasing hostilities in the southern Gaza Strip. Both the Biden and Trump campaigns are on board with the new rules for the first presidential debate of 2024. CNN announced today both candidates agreed to appear at a uniform podium with their positions determined by a coin flip. Microphones will be turned off during the 90-minute session except when it's each candidate's turn to speak. There will be no studio audience for the debate, which will be broadcast by CNN on June 27th in Atlanta. Lisa Carton, NBC News Radio.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
The information economy has arrived. The world is teeming with innovation as new business models reinvent every industry. Inside Analysis is your source of information and insight about how to make the most of this exciting new era. Learn more at InsideAnalysis.com.
InsideAnalysis.com.
And now, here's your host, Eric Kavanaugh.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back once again on the only coast-to-coast radio show in the U.S. of A. that's all about the information economy, Inside Analysis. Yours truly, Eric Kavanaugh here. And folks, I'm very excited to be dialed into our nation's capital. We're going to talk to an industry visionary today. We've got Mr. Chris Moore on the line from the Software and Information Industry Association, or SIIA. We're going to talk all about data and the data life cycle and protecting the data life cycle and frankly, being responsible stewards of data. And that's good for lots of different reasons, one of which happens to be this explosion of artificial intelligence. So it's not just people using data and people processing data. No, there are machines that are using data to train on and to do all sorts of different things. And that is very, very disruptive. And I think it's going to continue to be disruptive. So we want to talk also about responsible AI and how to get there. And the short answer is a lot of it has to do with data. And with that, let me welcome Chris Moore to the show. Thanks for your time today. Tell us a bit about yourself and about the SIIA.
Sure, my pleasure. It's good to be with you, and thank you for the invite.
Yeah, you bet.
We are, what we like to say is we're a place for folks who are in the business of information. And what we do is we look to preserve and protect a healthy information life cycle. In other words, we want to make sure that there is a good environment for its creation, dissemination, and productive use. And our members range from platform companies that you're probably familiar with, as well as educational publishers, news organizations and database publishers, and financial data firms.
Okay, and you get into a lot of different policy areas, obviously. I mean, there's intellectual property, there's privacy, there's cybersecurity, and just the use of data. So when you talk about the data life cycle, I presume you're talking about data from its creation to its grave, basically, from its inception through its use all the way to its deprecation, which in many cases doesn't even happen because it just sits around forever. But in a lot of cases, companies will follow process and procedure, and after X period of years, whatever the regulation is, they will delete that data and move on. Can you talk about how that works? I mean, you are an association, so you have leaders from many of these big companies, I guess over 800 members, who come together to forums and really talk about this stuff and kind of hash out what to do. Because I know from experience, policy is hard, and policies need to be understandable, they need to be known, and they need to be reasonable in order for people to follow them. So tell us a bit about how you go about doing that and maybe give us some examples.
Sure. I mean, I think there are areas, for example, where there's a pretty good bit of consensus within our membership, which is the easiest place to take policy positions. And so, for example, let's talk about privacy. That's right. That's a hot topic. And is there an AI wrinkle? Absolutely, there is. But that's an area where we saw a bunch of, we saw state laws coming from California in their signature law. And we looked at the text and we saw, okay, looking at it from the standpoint of a United States model, which it was likely to be initially, this has a real First Amendment problem. And the way that Europe approached GDPR and the way that we as the United States approach the use of information are very, very different. And so there we looked at that and we said, look, we want there to be a privacy law. We're not opposing the idea that you pass a privacy law, but you need to carve out publicly available information, because if you don't, the whole thing will go down in flames.
Right.
Right. And so we successfully, on behalf of our members, and they were, uniformly, I think, behind this, advocated for language in that, first in the CCPA and then in the ballot initiative, that carves out the use of publicly available data. So you can't tell somebody who publishes for example, a database of news articles to stop selling information about you or to delete information about you, which under GDPR is, theoretically can happen. And certainly in the business-to-business publishing space, which is another division of ours, that kind of thing is really important.
Yeah. Well, and I remember when GDPR came out and they had this whole thing. I think you might like this. They had this whole thing about the right to be forgotten, which is where they're saying that if you're an EU citizen and you want some corporation to delete whatever data it has about you, that you have a right to do that, and the corporation has to follow through and go ahead and delete your data. Well, as soon as I heard that, I was like, good luck with that one. First of all, data about someone in a company gets lots of places. It could be in this database, it could be in that database, it could be in email exchanges between people. There are lots of places where that data can live. And quite frankly, in many organizations, there aren't too many people who know all the places where that data can live. And it's hard to query your entire information landscape. I mean, these days, just this morning, I did a call with Justin Borgman, who's the CEO and co-founder of a company called Starburst, and they do federated queries, like on a data lake, basically, where they can query all sorts of different systems, all sorts of different databases through one abstraction layer. And that's very cool, and it's also very new, right? So, and not every company has Starburst or Dremio or these kind of tools. So point being, it puts a tremendous onus on the organizations to be able to do all that. Besides which, it's very difficult to know, is this the John Brown who lives at 101 Main Street or the John Brown who lives at 401 First Street or something? Like, just knowing identity resolution is a challenge in and of itself. So my point is, GDPR, pretty onerous stuff. I mean, I understand it's not always prosecuted, so the idea is to have these sort of goals to strive toward. But there's something else I want to throw out and maybe just get your take on all this stuff. I came up with this concept, I call it the right to be respected. And what that means is I want anyone who's using my data to respect my data and to respect my preferences. So if you ask me how do I want to be contacted, I say by email, not by phone. I would like for your operational system to reflect that and for people to not call me and instead to email me, right? That requires an architecture with policies that are baked in and adhered to. But I think that's a more reasonable approach, is to say to the XYZ organizations, yes, of course, you need my data when I buy things or if I sign up for stuff. That's all fine. But just, be a careful and responsible steward of our information and have some policy around that makes sense. But what do you think about all that?
I mean, to me, that sounds very sensible. And I think, the question that where it becomes sticky, I think, is depending on who you talk to, the idea, the word respected carries a lot of weight.
Right.
Right. That does a lot of work. And so, for some people, respecting data meant, the second that I have finished conducting business with your organization, I want you to take all my data, put it on a hard drive, smash it into bits and throw it in the sea. Right. So I know that it's gone. That's probably not terribly practical.
Right.
Right. And other folks may say, no, that's generally not how not generally, it's not how our members roll, but they won't say, well, we respected it. We respected you enough to get the data from you by consent in the first place.
Right.
Are we done here? That's not, that's not practical either. And look, nobody wants to get spammed with tons of messages from a company that they just did business with once, or God forbid, called.
Right.
And I think there are some natural market checks on that stuff.
And that's an excellent point, right? Is that the companies that do respect your privacy, that do respect your data and you as a person, well, they're going to have a good brand, they're going to have a good reputation, and that's where you let the market guide things. But to your point, you do need some kind of policy. And I think the good news is that the technologies we have today enable robust policy management. 10 years ago or 20 years ago, all you could really do is govern access at the database level or at the application layer, for example, through a login or something like that. But now you really can't have policies that are baked into cloud-based systems that are usually role-based. If this person is an accountant, they have access to accounting data. If they're a senior executive, they have access to a lot of different data. All those kind of things are possible today, and that makes the process of policy design and implementation and enforcement a whole heck of a lot easier, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think, and that's something even as a small organization, we have, where there are people, there are people who need to have the keys to everything,
right?
But there ain't many of them,
right?
Right.
That's right.
And there are folks who need to be able to access Microsoft Office, and that's essentially about it.
Right.
And it's really important internally. I think technology's come a long way to allowing internal companies to exercise those controls, as well as, I mean, in terms of what our members do, even when they're dealing with customers, there will be a range of controls on what a particular customer might be able to do with what they access. And how that's determined. So that could be everything from reps and warranties in a contract, in a terms of use, in the subscription agreement, to IP monitoring and clearance, to sometimes even site visits, to be sure that this place that is licensing access to information is, in fact exists.
Right.
And it's not some, it depends. They adopt a risk-based approach to all of this stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you make another good point about having the need for people who understand how the systems work, right? If something is a black box, well, it's kind of hard to understand a black box. And now, I mean, at the risk of getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here, artificial intelligence, large language models, right? These companies that built some of the first ones like OpenAI, for example. I know a lot of people who know about that whole process. And what I'm told is that early in the game, they realized they cannot just set these engines loose on the internet at large, because there's a lot of nonsense on the internet. There's a lot of true stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that's not true. There's speculation, there's sarcasm, there are all kind of things. And so they had to be very careful about how they trained the models, but they clearly trained the models on a corpus of data on the internet. And so, like, where do you run into, how do you even delineate copyright on something like that? And what's fun is if you ever ask ChatGPT or Gemini, which is what I use, about copyright, it'll give you a pretty thoughtful answer. It'll say, well, actually, you might want to talk to your attorney or something like that. But what are your high level thoughts about that? I realize it's a very sensitive subject, but I'm sure you guys are talking about that, right?
We do. And this is this is an area I had mentioned. There are areas where our members agree. And this is an area where they don't. But there are a few points, and I'm a recovering copyright lawyer, and so perfectly happy to have a relapse. But just so you know,
you've been there.
I've been there. So there are definitely two sides to this story, and on the one side, you have a technology that, at its core, is looking for statistical relationships between words and series of words.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what it's interested in.
Right.
So a word, quick, brown, the next likely word is fox, is a lot more likely than rutabaga, and it's a physics model of sorts.
Right.
For language.
Right.
And so in determining those relationships, you are abstracting out a particular non-fact, if you like. And the argument on the one side would point to reverse engineering cases that have held that type of activity to be lawful.
Right.
That's one piece of it. The other piece of it is that on the one hand, the work may be copied. The work was copied. There's no doubt about that. It is being used to create works that may not be literally similar, but are nonetheless competitively substitutive for the works of the originating authors.
Right.
That's an issue. And there may be issues, there may be other issues in there around the weights assigned to particular kinds of content. There may be issues around whether or not any of the content was piratical. There may be issues around any number of things. But the thing is that these are issues that are uniquely poorly situated to have a legislature deal with them because they're fact specific. And that's how the courts resolve these things, one case at a time.
Oh, interesting.
And that's where our members are. So even though they disagree about these things and they think in some circumstances the law ought to play, one group will say, well, in this circumstance, the law ought to apply in a particular way versus a different circumstance. That kind of salami slicing is what needs to happen before there can really be any policy solution.
Right. That's very interesting. So, for example, I remember, well, I guess in Canada, they just had passed this law. And in California, I think they're doing something similar where the government is saying that if you link to a bunch of news articles from media companies, you have to pay those people based on the clicks and things of this nature. And so, what's the law of unintended consequences doing here? It's saying, well, fine, then we just won't do that. So we won't disseminate the news anymore. We won't disseminate this information. And it kind of gets sticky very, very quickly. And you start asking yourself, all right, does this make sense? And like, how would you compensate people for these things? Would you have to open the kimono and show what you paid as an organization to the author? I mean, wow, that conversation goes sideways pretty quickly. And I remember news aggregation sites, for example, where you just have a bunch of links to other articles. They're saying, oh, now you'd have to pay those people. This has come and gone a few times. We've got our first break coming up here in just a second, but we'll pick this up after the break. It is a bit of a stifling question to wonder, well, hyperlinks are what the internet is all about. Like at the very core, it's just links to other stuff that you can then explore and learn about and have discovery and do all these kinds of educational things. So if you start trying to track that, well, how would you even do that? I mean, there's no one standard for being able to report on that. Does everyone have to download a certain kind of software to do that? I mean, it goes sideways so quickly. And I don't think that many people really understand that a lot of these aspirations are either untenable or going to have unintended consequences that are just so dire. It really undercuts the whole mission in the first place of trying to protect the authors of some particular piece of content somewhere. It gets wild and woolly real fast. But folks, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with Chris Moore. You are listening to Inside Analysis.
Welcome back to Inside Analysis. Here's your host, Eric Kavanagh.
Take us to the future.
All right, folks, take us to the future indeed. Talking all things information life cycle, responsible information management. We're talking to Chris Moore of the Software and Information and Industry Association, right? Did I get that right?
Close enough.
It
doesn't really roll off the tongue, does it? I got to work on that.
So it's the SIIA, dialing in from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And you mentioned in the last segment, piratical, meaning pirated. And so if someone has trained their model on pirated software, pirated movies, for example, that's a whole separate area that needs to be handled differently from a policy perspective, right? Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Sure. I mean, I think I'm talking about, when I talk about that, what I'm talking about is in the context of a copyright lawsuit, which is where all this is now, there is there's a defense called fair use, which is kind of copyrights, if you like, copyright's golden rule. It's not do unto others and run. It's do unto others as you would have them do,
right?
Do to you. And it's designed to be a rule of reason, right?
Right.
And so, but it's one that's based in equity or fairness. And so your risk looks different if you had lawfully acquired a bunch of stuff, a bunch of legitimate copies, if you legitimately got access to legitimate copies and used them versus you got access to illegitimate copies, infringing copies, and used those, the fairness balance looks different. It's the risk analysis is simply different. And that's saying it without opining on how the case may turn out.
Right.
Because there's lots of other facts that could swing it one way or the other. But the risk looks different.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. And so what we're trying to do is define reasonable policies. And I know all about fair use. It basically says, look, I mean, you can read something and remember it. And then if you happen to quote it and you didn't realize you're quoting it verbatim, well, you're not doing something bad. You're just reflecting back. And what's interesting is that's really kind of what these AI models are doing, the large language models. The big aha moment for me was understanding that when you train one of these models on information, it's not actually persisting the verbatim text. Rather, it is adjusting, the engine adjusts its own weights and biases in its parameters, which is kind of like how humans learn. I mean, these are neural nets that were designed to attempt to reflect how human beings behave. But the point is, it's not like copying and then pasting later on. It's absorbing this information, adjusting its parameters accordingly. And there are billions of parameters in some of these models. And then it's reflecting back to you text based upon your prompt. And it's a predictive engine. Basically, it's a predictive engine that gives you what it thinks you're looking for based upon your prompt, which is a very different thing from just copying text and then pasting it under a different name, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I had a similar insight for me was that these engines are essentially a particular kind of artist, which I wouldn't describe on a family show. What I mean by that is they say, act as if you were.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask them a question and say, I would like the answer to this, to a particular question, can you explain the fair use defense to me? You are saying, act as if you are an expert on fair use. What would you tell this person?
Right.
And then the quality of the data will determine that answer, right? It could be right, it could be wrong. And when you get into more sensitive questions around security, around, for example, I don't know, creating chemical weapons and stuff like that, it requires a lot of thought and care to make sure that the engine doesn't do what it's supposed to, so to speak.
Right. Well, and of course, there's dual use technologies. That's a very common thing to watch out for in the government, because you can use the stuff for fertilizer or to make a bomb. Right. And so you have to be able to understand the difference between the two. And, you're right that this comes into question where rubber meets road when there's a lawsuit somewhere, and then you have to hash out all the different issues and try to understand. But I think you're on target to say that the fair use doctrine is meant to be fair, as the name would indicate. It's meant to say, all right, there are lines we can draw about how you can responsibly use these things. And as I understand it, in the music industry, there's some pretty precise rules around that, like how many notes in a row can be the same and things of this nature when push comes to shove in a court of law somewhere. But just generally speaking, it's very interesting to me to see how these large language models have triggered all these conversations around ethics and ethical AI and what you can do. And I think the answer to most of that is solved in two different ways. One is data governance, and the other is transparency. And the transparency argument, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that, because, of course, you got Llama 2 and Llama 3 from Meta, which are open source. OpenAI used to be open source. It's not now. It's now a black box. And what do you think, from your perspective, how big a difference is that? How does that change things when it's a black box versus an open source model?
So that is, I'm going to give you an answer that's accurate and both technically accurate and practically useless. And the answer is that it depends.
Right.
I think, because we have seen these debates before. And by that, I mean, there was a time when those who made, and I'll put it in scare quotes, black box software were scared to death of open source,
right?
Viewed it as a virus, one that needed, a proportionate response.
Right.
And it turned out to be a really good way of developing secure and interoperable systems in certain circumstances. There are times when you will want that. There are times when you won't. I think here we are seeing to some degree a similar kind of we're seeing a similar drama play out. I think it is a little different around the edges, but there it really has to go. There, the way that it's different is that the engines themselves are so flexible. And so there, in other words, if you're building, I don't know, an open source video rendering tool, just looking at this screen, that's what it is. Whereas an open source AI model is different. So what is the right approach to that? The right approach to dealing with something like that is going to be based on risk. In other words, you have to be sure that and this is the way that the U.S. is progressing. This is the way the White House has made clear that it wants to go. They want a risk-based approach to this. But to give you a really simple answer, and in our experience, I mean, we've been around for, we're creeping on 50, which is a long time for a quote technology, close quote association. So, we've seen a few rodeos, and in our experience anyway, technology neutral regulation tends to be the best way to approach these things. In other words, you don't look so much, you look at the risks that the technology creates. So fraud is still going to be fraud. It doesn't matter if it's a scammer calling you in real life, or if it's a bot scammer using AI to create a voice. They're both okay. Both of those things are scary. They are both. It's a dual use technology, right? They will use it in movies, for example, to create a character that no longer exists, or an actor's voice that can no longer use his.
Right.
Right. That's dual use technology, but it's still fraud.
Right.
And there are remedies for that. And if there are technology specific angles, that's what we need to look into, as opposed to saying, okay, and this is typical of the EU, sort of where they started was, it's not coming out unless we approve it.
Right.
And that's which treats, your Spotify algorithm the same way that it would treat, power grid management. That's just that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and you're reminding me of something too, because deep fakes are definitely an issue. Certainly, we're going to see this in the political sphere. I mean, I've seen a couple that were very funny. I'm not going to lie. I won't say which one it was or who it was, but it was like, what? What did she say? I had to laugh, but okay, it's a deep fake. That's what's happening here. But I think that probably, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this, there are some very practical ways you can leverage technology to know if something is genuine, because most cameras are digital cameras these days, and they have a whole host of metadata that's baked into that device about, what device it is, what time this thing was taken, what the location was. A lot of them have geolocation. So if you pass all those markers, then that looks good. Then you could say this photograph was of the wreckage from a tornado in Kansas, and it checks out. Yep, it was in Kansas. Yep, it was this date. Okay, that looks pretty good. And you're starting to see, I think it was Meta and someone else say, maybe it was Google, they're going to try to create some watermarks on digitally altered photography, videos, things of this nature. Also, I think that's a very practical way to go, because then you'll be able to sense that, or your browser can sense that, and it'll say, and you can turn it on or off. Like, is this real or is this generated? I think that's some pretty good stuff. Even when someone calls you on the phone, is it a real voice? I mean, I get calls, and I know the technology underneath, so I'm curious to see, and like, they'll wait a second. Oh, how are you doing? Anyway, this is Jane from such and such. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, sure it is. Like, this is a computer voice talking to you. But what do you think about all that, about the practical ways we can leverage technology and existing formats and protocols to kind of shepherd ourselves towards getting to the truth?
So there's one of the ideas. I tend to be optimistic about the role of technology in this space. In other words, we will deploy things, and then there will always be some kind of unintended consequence.
Right.
Right. One way or another. And then we figure out a way to fix it. So in this particular space, content provenance, what you were talking about, that's exactly the kind of thing that can greatly ameliorate the harm from deepfakes, because you'll know where the image came from and whether or not it was altered.
That's right.
That's that kind of thing. It takes time. Standards doesn't take long to lie. Right.
That's a good quote.
But it does take time to develop standards for figuring out what the truth is, particularly when you have a variety of companies with a variety of different kinds of IP getting together and trying to figure out something that's going to work for everybody. That's how the standards process works, and it's an incredibly valuable one, but it takes time.
Right.
Right. And we've seen the same kinds of things happen in all kinds of areas. Content moderation. I know it's a what they call a fraught topic.
Right.
Right. But those algorithms get a lot of bad stuff down. They get a lot. And yes, are people doing bad things? Yes. Are they doing bad things on the internet? For sure. And it doesn't take, the scale is so, the numbers are just so big that even a small failure rate is an enormous amount of available bad stuff.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah.
And it's hard to, it's hard to persuade people that people are trying really hard when the numbers are so big.
Yeah.
But it's, it's kind of like from the old days, proving your value as a counsel through all of the bad things that didn't happen.
Yeah. That's funny, right? Like you can't prove a negative, right?
Exactly.
The age-old argument.
Right. Or if they did, things would get really, really bad.
Right. Well, there you go with again, the law of unintended consequences, and boy, can it come just screeching down the pike if you throw down some mantra or some dictate about what can and cannot be done. Again, I get to what I call the black market effect. When rules and regulations are unreasonable and significantly unreasonable, you can rest assured that people are going to go around them. They're going to find other ways to do it. They're going to offshore it. They're going to get deputies to do it. They're going to pay people other ways to, have them do it. I mean, there's just like 1,000 things you can do. And getting to the bottom of it is a very difficult thing. I had a guy on this show a long, long time ago, I think in 2009, a guy, I'll never forget his name, Chuck Nice from the Insurance Institutes of America. And he had this great quote. He said, let me tell you, if an insurance company wants to hide something, you're not going to find it. And I was like, wow, I hadn't thought of it that way. He had a great quote too, because we were talking about could better governance have prevented the housing crash in 2008, or the market crash, basically, the money markets that went down and all that stuff. And he said, yeah, I don't think so. He goes, like, who would have known that lending money to people who couldn't afford it was a bad idea? So you get back to that